It's podcast number 50. Sorry. Take a look at this. There's a tangent on that side. There's a tangent on that side. Some people would make the mistake of dividing by tangent. But whenever possible, you should not divide by a variable. Let me show you why. So for example, I'll show you an algebra example. X squared equals x. So because it's got x squared, that means there's two solutions. So what number do you square and it equals itself? Well, the answer is x equals 0, x equals 1. Square 0, it equals 0. Square 1, it equals 1. So those are the two solutions. But then suppose somebody goes like this. All right, I'm going to divide both sides by x. Now the problem with that is you don't know what x equals. So if x happens to equal 0, you're dividing by 0, which is undefined. The other problem is when you divide by x, this is just going to leave x and this is 1, which means that by doing it this way, you only get one answer when there's actually two answers. So instead, the proper way to do this one is you subtract this x from both sides. Now it's equal to 0. And instead of dividing, you factor. Factor out an x, and then set this equal to 0, and set this equal to 0. And you get the two solutions. So that is what we need to do over here. So I'm going to take this tangent and subtract it to put it on the right side. That will make it equal to 0. So there's going to be 2 sine theta tangent theta, and then subtract tangent theta from both sides. And now we could factor out tangent of theta. And it's going to leave 2 sine of theta minus a 1. Now we're down to this point. So set each of these equal to 0. Tangent theta equals 0. Technically, there's supposed to be the word or in between. So this one, you could add 1 to both sides and then divide by 2. So that means that sine of theta is equal to a half. Deja vu, that happened in the last podcast. So when does sine equal a half? Well, if you make this line go straight across, there's two solutions. And if you do sine inverse of a half, so this is actually left over from the last podcast. You do sine inverse of a half, it gives you this decimal. Then just hit divided by pi and change it to a fraction. So it's actually 1/6 of pi or pi over 6. So this solution is pi over 6. And the second solution is just to the left of pi. So that will be pi minus pi over 6. Or in other words, 6 pi over 6 minus 1 pi over 6 equals 5 pi over 6. So theta equals pi over 6 is one solution. Theta equals 5 pi over 6. There's 2 of the solutions. Then for this one, when does tangent equal 0? So the graph of tangent looks like this. And tangent of 0 equals 0. So theta equals 0 is another answer. And then let's graph the original problem and see if we've got all of the answers. And make sure that we don't have any extra answers. So one side of the equation says tangent. The other side says 2 sine of x times tangent of x. And for the window, going from 0 to 2 pi, that's good. And for the y values, I'm not really sure. I'm going to guess -5 to 5. And let's see if we could see the two graphs. So they intersect in here. There's a third answer and a fourth answer. And it looks like 2 pi should even be another answer. So in here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're supposed to have 5 answers. Pi over 6. Trace pi divided by 6. That should be right there. And, oh, I didn't put pi over 6. I was too busy looking at the graph and not what I was typing. Pi over 6. Yes, that's correct. How about 0? That's correct. How about 5 pi over 6? Yep, it looks like they intersect there. So we still need this answer and this answer. Well, if you look at this graph and you continue this line out, there are no more solutions. So it doesn't come from that. What it comes from is tangent. You could draw another branch of tangent and it would cross the x-axis right here. And you could draw another branch of tangent and there would be another answer right here. Well, because the period of tangent is pi, that means that this one is at 0. So this one is at pi and this one is at 2 pi. And these are the two answers I was missing previously. So just throw those into the pile. And then there's all 5 solutions.